Hello and welcome back to Marky Mark Reviews. This is just an update on my GoCycle G4i, which I've done for a little while now. Just to cut the long story short, it's still going very well indeed. I still enjoy massively riding this GoCycle G4i. Part of this video is for you to join me on a typical trip from home into central Cardiff, but I'm going to put special attention to the forthcoming Cardiff Cycle Superhighway. So there'll be something similar to London, where you're going to have at the moment 5 planned cycle superhighways that will keep us separated, or cyclists separated, from traffic on the main roads, which will increase safety for cyclists. That's an overview map of what they plan, of these 5 routes, all kind of streaming into the city centre. So you're going to join me now. This is my typical route into central Cardiff, where you have to share the road with other vehicles, with these little narrow cycle lanes that aren't the safest. So I often take the chance to take a little detour along these little cycleways, and that often means I have to look out for these little blue and white signs that you can see, and there's one coming up here. And this just means that it allows essentially for pedestrians and cyclists to share the same pathway. Obviously you have to be careful if there are pedestrians in front of you, use your bell. I'm still massively enjoying riding the G4i. It's incredibly silent when you drive. Any of the noises that I may have reported on earlier have seemed to have just disappeared. There are lots of commenters that saw my videos and told me that it was probably the hydraulic disc brakes that were rubbing, and they had something similar on their GoCycles, and they eventually just disappeared. And that seems to be the case, because that's the same which has happened to me. So as I'm heading due south, heading into the city centre, this is actually a cycle pathway on the right of me here, but the tarmac is so broken and rough that there's actually better riding on the actual pavement or sidewalk. And this is such a pavement or sidewalk that has one of these signs, as you can see, coming up, that allows me to ride on the actual pavement. There are very few pedestrians along this section, so it's actually okay to do. And again, I'm still riding on the pavement here. You can see if I was right, I have ridden on the road, but as you ride on the road, the traffic is very close to you. As I cross this junction now, you can see that the proper cycle lane appears once again. But it's not an ideal one. There's still no physical separation between the traffic and cyclists, but at least it is a demarcated area. So there's a bit more separation here. You may be able to tell since I last posted a video, I bought this high-vis fluorescent yellow-green jacket that I tend to wear all the time, which is windproof as well. And although it's a lovely sunny day, it was still quite a cold wind on this particular day of filming, so I've got these nice gloves again, which are windproof, so they really do keep your hands nice and warm. You can see that cycle lane has just disappeared now, and I'm back on the main road, sharing the space with traffic, and things like traffic islands there. It's important to try and speed up so you don't get caught in a kind of bottleneck with a vehicle. This takes the bumps very well. As you know, GoCycle doesn't have any front suspension, it just has rear suspension, but it's still pretty comfortable. Although you do learn sometimes just to keep the bottom off the seat. So this is can be a dangerous junction as you turn right, because it's quite busy, and this is heading towards the University Hospital Wales, Heath as it's known in Cardiff. At that moment there, it was a little bit tricky because there was a car behind me and a car pulling out of that junction, but the car behind me did stop to allow me to turn right. And now this is an area, I'm just encircling, this is Heath Park on the left, and there's a nice kind of Crescent type quiet road, which allows me I've just taken a detour from heading into central Cardiff, and this is a nice quiet road, so it just allows me to pull off the busy main throughway and into this area. And I'm just heading back towards the University Hospital Wales, or the Heath Hospital. another thing that's happened in the UK in the past few weeks is that there's been a change to the highway code, which gives a distinct hierarchy between pedestrians, cyclists, and then vehicles. So pedestrians will always have right of way, followed by cyclists, and then vehicles. So they always have to, first of all, give you a lot of space, now made official, when they try and overtake you. And also at junctions, pedestrians, if they're crossing, they have right of way. There's also been a pretty much blanket 20 mile an hour speed limit over most roads in Cardiff, which as a driver as well is quite difficult to keep to because it's very, very slow, but obviously it makes things a lot safer as a cyclist sharing the road with vehicles, because things are travelling much slower and you can keep up with traffic much more easily, especially on an e-bike such as the GoCycle. Again, this is another route that shares pedestrians share with cyclists. And you can just see now the Heath Hospital on the right. I'm just tilting the GoPro so you can have a look. Not much to see, it's not the prettiest of complex of buildings. And I'm just rejoining that same road that I was on earlier, which is King George V. But just heading in a slightly different direction now. I'm going back on myself, and I'm heading straight towards the Heath Hospital. And this is an overview of the planned cycle superhighways with these blue tinted or coloured cycle pathways. So I'm just coming out now of the main, one of the main entrance exit routes to the Heath Hospital, and this should be now a cycle superhighway, but as you can see there's no evidence. As you can see the lights are turned green now, and I can just pump the pedals and I really do get a nice boost in city mode to increase the speed. And now I'm on this portion of Allensbank Road, and again this should be a cycle superhighway, and I was hoping there were some roadworks going on here, so I thought they were actually putting this in, but I've just returned today and there's no sign of any such cycle superhighway. So you've still got that old-fashioned painted white line separating cyclists from traffic. So yeah, this is on my side of the road. This should all be a nice blue tinted or coloured piece of tarmac with separation from the vehicles, but there's no sign of anything. As you can see, 20 mile an hour limit for vehicles. And this is where the roadworks were. There was meant to be, I was hoping, a proper cycle superhighway, and this is the artist's impression on the Cardiff website what it should look like. And this is what it is like in real life. So I'm hoping later on this year or within the next few weeks there's some sort of proper pathway, because it will just make travelling to and from Cardiff much more relaxing than what it is now, when you're continually looking over your right shoulder to make sure there's not a vehicle about to overtake you. You just see the clear 20 mile an hour speed limits now all over. Earlier there was a cemetery on my left. This is quite a busy junction. Back on this again, so this old-fashioned cycle lane just reappears again. I'm about to turn left onto Whitchurch Road from Allensbank Road, and that's going upside down. So again, I'm hoping, there should be a nice cycle lane, brand new cycle lane here. So this should be, aside from that last diagram you just saw, there should be a nice cycle lane, but there's nothing here at all. And again, artist's impression of what this area should look like eventually. I'm about to turn right, so I'm moving to the right lane, and unfortunately this is one of the things I don't like, and that is being on the same patch of road as a bus, and especially this type of bus, which is a diesel bus. And this is about what I'm about to turn onto Catay's Terrace, and you can see there should be a cycle lane on the right, but here we can actually see evidence of roadworks going on the right hand side of the screen. So yeah, I was just saying, behind a diesel bus, this is what happens. I'm actually putting my hand over my mouth at the moment. Sometimes I have been wearing a mask, but obviously during the pandemic and lockdown has ended, I don't really want to wear a mask when I'm cycling now. But this was just spewing out huge amounts of diesel fumes, which was awful. Luckily, Cardiff are introducing, and there are already some proper electric buses, so there's no problem in riding behind one of those. So on the right-hand side of the picture now, and also the left, these are all the cycle lanes that are actually being built and being put in as we speak. So that's a good sign indeed. Again, these 20-mile-an-hour limits make it easy for me to keep up with vehicles and keep ahead of vehicles behind me. And now you can see the cycle lanes pretty much complete on the right side. There's still some barriers in place. The tarmac looks pretty fresh.
That looks like it's finished now, almost. Cycle lane, good.
Just move my camera over there.
Plenty going there.
So it's quite exciting. This will just make it nice and easy in the future coming into central Cardiff. It's a big junction here, and on that map you may have seen earlier, this is a crossover point, and now I'm actually on this brand new bit of tarmac that is a cycle, part of the Cycle Superhighway number 1. I'm not sure they're meant to actually be on it, but obviously there's no barriers and nothing stopping me from going on it, so it's nice just to be on it. It's plenty wide. Obviously this is a bi-directional bit of pathway, as most of them will be. They're wide enough to allow cycle traffic in both directions, and I can turn right onto Corbett Road. I'm going to carry on straight left onto Senghennydd Road, which just backs onto the main Cardiff University headquarters that we used to call Cardiff Union building. It's now called something like the Cardiff Building of Life or something like that. But as you can see, lovely wide bi-directional cycle highway here. Nice and quiet. And you can just relax. That's what I find when you're a cyclist. You can just relax. And this has all been regenerated. So this is behind the main Cardiff building. All shops, cafes, libraries. Just doing a reflection shot here. So you can see my reflection in the window looking good. Yeah, so it's a really nice area. Cardiff really has always been actually very popular with students. They've always had one of the best capitals for student life, so it's really nice to see that plenty of options, shops, cafes, supermarkets now for students. All looking pretty modern. So I'm just literally 2 or 3 minutes from the centre of Cardiff, which is Cardiff Castle, I guess. This is a route that in a car I wouldn't normally take, but with a cycle it's easy to take. This is in St Andrew's Crescent. Have to cross over the road, and again there is evidence here. This car almost knocks me over. And again, a proper part of the Cycle Superhighway, again bi-directional, so there's cycle traffic in both ways, both directions. Yeah, this is along Stuttgarter Strasse. These did have different names, these roads, but the road names were changed quite a few years ago now, to give them all a European flavour. Yeah, got the individual lights just for cyclists. And again, nice and wide. Some delivery cyclists delivering their packages all around the city. This Boulevard de Nantes is just the street in front of the Cardiff National Museum. On the right, the town hall, and also the law courts, which I'll just swing the camera around in a moment so you can have a look. Really nice buildings, and this is now, just reminds you that you're in central Cardiff, and the museum's on the far right there, the town hall in the middle. When I head, I've taken a slight detour today to show you these new, or potentially new, Cycle Superhighways, but I would normally be approaching Cardiff from the right. So if you were to look right, that is where I'd normally come down from my home in the north part of Cardiff. And now this is just a small section, the last part of North Road. And you've got Cardiff Castle now on the right hand side, of which you can see some of the walls. Around parts of Cardiff Castle. Turning into a lovely day again, so this is going to be a long ride. And I've just passed Cardiff Castle now. Unfortunately, the GoPro, I was turning the GoPro on and off to, take certain clips, but I didn't record that section. I'm just carrying on now to Calvary's Road East, and again, really nice to see that this is now proper cycle lane. That nice light blue tinged tarmac, which is a high grip as well. And because it's pretty fresh, it's not broken up or potholed as yet, but I'm sure it will become that over the years of use. So I'm now essentially I've reached, and I'm now passing out through out the back of central Cardiff, heading essentially west southwest. And again, it's still nice to see all these. This area is now fully cycle highway compliant, so you're nicely separated from vehicles and traffic. Still not separated by a high curb, but the fact that the tarmac's of a different colour and you have a solid white line just helps to keep that separation, although it's not going to save you from that errantly poorly driven car. And I'm just crossing over now here as I head back essentially into town. I did actually do a much longer ride, which was over 2 hours, but this was just to show the new ride and these potential new Cycle Superhighways. This is when I go back to the GoCycle app, and you can see I'm just approaching 500 miles, and that was a 17-mile ride today as I got back home. And also I wear an Apple Watch, and that when you do the feature for a cycle ride, it does track your routes. You can always look back on it and just see where you've gone, which is always handy for me, because I always take detours down side roads and things like that, and the Apple Watch keeps a good track. And that's just a summary. Anyway, that's it for now. The bike will be due for a service soon, so I'll keep you posted on that. But if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up, and if you like, please subscribe. Bye for now.